Hey, how you doing? Thanks for downloading the show. Welcome to Garden Fork Radio. It's me and my friends talking about what we think are interesting things. Eclectic DIY is the theme. I also have a YouTube channel by the same name. Today we're going to be talking about what is generally called the New Zealand Composter, which is this very amazing a compost bin that actually works that Rick has. And Julia, one of our friends, said, hey, I want to talk about the composter. So the three of us just got together and we're going to be talking composting. So welcome, Julia.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Rick, you're going to have to behave yourself today, okay?
Yes, we have guests. There are other people in the house. I actually have put on clean underwear for today, so yeah.
I
Thank you,
appreciate
Rick.
that.
Yeah,
That's really good.
All right, let's get past Rick's jokes. Well, Julia's been on before, and we all kind of have this shared interest in compost and the efficient way to do it. And Rick mentioned that he had one of these. And so, Julia, why don't you tell your creation story with the composter?
Right. So I heard Rick saying that he had, kept worms for many years, and with the tray systems and the different things, and he had discovered the best way to keep worms was this hungry bin, comes from New Zealand, and it's a flow-through system.
And that's
that
the important part, the flow through. So,
right.
yeah.
So you're not dealing with trays. You're not trying to lure the worms over here so you can harvest the castings over there. It's really big. It's bigger than my wheelie trash can.
Yes, it is. It's pretty big.
It is a big thing. It's just about the size of my recycling bin.
And so,
To give you an idea of how big it is, it would sit it could be. I mean, if my house was set up differently, it could be right there. It could be like there's the trash bin, there's the recycling bin, there's the worm bin, because it's got two wheels.
right.
It tips and rolls, and it's got a big old lid on the top. And then the clever thing about it is that I think it goes from 2 feet by 2 feet at the top down to 1 foot by 1 foot at the bottom.
And so it's compressing continually as the material begins to decompose and the worms work it over and churn it up, and it falls to the bottom, and then the worms stay up where it is looser. And so you don't have worms crawling around in your finished compost, and they're up high.
Right. And so the very bottom, what is it, 2 or 3 inches, kind of snaps on and can snap off.
Right. And that's where you harvest.
And that's how you harvest the castings. I'm going to say eventually, because I bought this in May. So that's one of my questions for you, Rick. When is the first time that you think I could try taking that bottom off? Because I'm pretty sure if I took it off now, just everything would fall out.
It might. Well, tell me how you set it up. Did you line the bottom with newspaper at first?
Oh, no, I did not line the bottom.
Okay,
with
well, that's
newspaper
all
at
right.
first.
That's all right.
Who told you to do that?
Well,
That's not the instructions.
it's just something I thought of. I do.
Oh, okay.
I did.
All right.
But
okay.
You've been using it since May. Where'd you get your worms?
I got the worms. I think I got the worms from from the place where what was this guy? He's an East Coast guy.
Uncle
the worm
Jim's.
guy.
Uncle
Yeah,
Jim's.
Uncle Jim. I got it from Uncle
Jim's
Jim.
Worm Farm. Yeah.
Yes, Uncle Jim's Worm Farm. I ordered the Hungry Bin, and probably, is it like a pound of worms? Does that
Something.
make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah. They sell them. I
Yeah.
think they sell them by the count, but I don't think they actually count them. But
Yeah.
you can start off with
A
like
bunch.
a 500,
worms.
1,000 worms is
Yeah.
plenty.
I think it was 1,000 worms, and then they said, "Do you want to order these?" I don't know how to pronounce this word. COIR.
Coir, yeah, coconut
Coir.
coir.
Do you want to order this coconut coir for bedding? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I got the coir and the worms and the bin, and they all came, and the worms were alive. That was great. And the coir, was bricks, multiple bricks, and I soaked them in water, and they came nowhere near filling this bin.
Well, you don't want to fill the bin.
Well, but in the instructions, it says that you should start by filling the bin 75%.
Wow.
And these bricks filled it maybe 20-25%
That's
because it's
perfectly
big,
fine.
as we mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that made me nervous. See, so
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to do this podcast so I
Yeah.
could check in.
Hey, real quick, if you would like to help support the show, one way is to use the Amazon link for Garden Fork. I said that backwards. The Garden Fork Amazon link. It's in the show notes here. It's amazon.com/shop/Garden Fork. If you use that link, it'll take you to our shopping page. We can see the cool tools I use, cookbooks. I have several lists there of stuff. But also, by visiting that page, then doing all your shopping, we get a finder's fee for whatever you shop for that day. That's really helpful. Amazon.com/shop/Garden Fork. Thank you. Let's just back up to coir is shredded coconut shell. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. And it's ideal for worm bedding, but it's also ideal for your garden. I like it a
Mm-hmm.
lot more than newspaper in the worm bin or whatever. I mean, I put newspaper in if we have one, but who takes a newspaper anymore? You have to go out and look
Right.
for it. But coir is a nice, has a good loam. It feels good in your hand. It's damp, but it's not sopping. Uh,
It's fluffy.
it's fluffy, yeah, and so it
Yeah.
distributes the moisture, and the worms need moisture to
Mm-hmm.
survive. But then the worms are going to um, they don't eat the garbage directly.
Mm-hmm.
They eat the bacteria slime that grows on the side of garbage. When something feels slimy, or
Mm-hmm.
if there's mold or mildew, that kind of thing on the garbage. That's what they eat. They don't eat the garbage directly, and so
That's
it's
interesting.
really better to start your bin
Mm-hmm.
and load it up, or not load it up, but put in several layers of what you want composted with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then let it get to that kind of slimy point, and then put the worms in, so there's something for them to eat, because they can't eat a
Oh.
watermelon rind by itself. They have to have uh, the
Oh, see,
mixture,
so I wish I'd talked to you at the beginning because what I should have done was pull some like gross stuff out of my. I have a rotating compost bin,
right?
and I should have pulled some partially broken down stuff out of
Yeah.
there
See, that's going to be
for the
that's
worms.
ideal for them. But I bet you
Yeah.
your worms are fine the way they are.
They do seem to be fine. There's
Yeah.
like, every time I open, there's worms like dashing underneath the bedding.
Right.
So yeah, I haven't dug in there to see if they're multiplying. I do see castings on the sides of the bin, more and more
Right.
of those. So I
Uh
know
huh.
there's worms crawling around and leaving castings.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I'm not, well, again, I haven't dug down, but I was feeding them a little bit every day. And then honestly, I stopped feeding them because I'm like, this doesn't seem to be getting eaten. And I was worried that it was just going to heat up and then, compost and heat up and kill my worms.
Yeah.
So that's
If
another question I have.
it's not as likely. There's a good deal of airflow through that coconut core, and the bottom of your
Hmm.
bin is ventilated.
That's
So
true.
it's flowing through, and it's carrying away a good deal of the heat. And just the way it's designed, it's not likely to heat up. But you might want to kind of rotate and put fresh material in the top left, and then in the top right, bottom left, bottom right, and then maybe in the middle as you add, so it rotates through and isn't so strong just in one place. But
Oh,
it
okay.
should not kick off.
All
I
right.
I think your worms are fine. You're seeing castings. Uh, the beauty of this system is the worms only work about 3 inches deep, and so as you
Hmm.
fill it and fill it and fill it, the worms will keep working their way up. They don't work their way down. And
Hmm.
so what is not composted by the worms, what doesn't rot right away, will go ahead and compost naturally. So this is like a threefer. So you
Hmm.
get natural composting going on the way compost should work. You get the worms doing their best up here at the top making castings, and then
Hmm.
eventually, I'm pretty sure you're going to find black soldier fly larvae. Uh,
Right. They show up in my rotating compost bin every summer.
yeah, and they'll show up in this eventually, which is good
Oh,
because
okay.
they actually eat the
They
uh,
eat anything.
yeah, but they eat the waste you put in there directly, the food that you put in there directly,
Mm-hmm.
and so they will break it down, and what the larvae expel is will just go ahead and produce bacteria and fungus and that kind of stuff for the worms to eat. And so it's like a threefer. You're getting everything broken down, it's being recycled, and
Hmm.
when it finally gets down to the bottom, you're going to have some of the most beautiful compost you've ever seen in your life.
All right.
I'm sold.
How long did it take before you were able to harvest castings?
I did not harvest the first year,
Okay, yeah, I get the feeling it's going to take a while.
but now I'm harvesting once it's up and full and the worms are really working, and
Hmm.
it's a it's an active biosystem. It's just like a human body in a way,
Yeah.
and it's really active, and I can open the bottom and just let the castings fall out, or dig up there with a little spade to help them loosen because they are
Hmm.
compacted. I can do that every 2 weeks and get about 5 gallons,
Oh, wow.
and
That's
and then just snap the bottom back on and it's fine. Now, one of the things that this has is a
hmm.
tray underneath it to catch all the leachant, all the liquid that flows
Yes.
out. That
Right.
that stuff is golden. She Who Must Be Obeyed has been growing orchids with it, and the orchids just
Oh,
love it. All the house plants
okay.
love this stuff. So
Do you dilute it?
about 50%.
Okay. All right. All right. So that's cool. So what are the appropriate bedding? You were saying that you don't really like newspaper, and you like the
Hmm.
coir. Um, but I don't really want to keep buying coir if I can use something
Oh,
like I have used shredded brown paper.
perfect.
We get things in
Hmm.
packages, and sometimes they use just really, really long pieces of brown paper that's been sort of
Like craft
accordion.
paper or packing
Yeah,
paper, yeah.
craft paper, I think. Yeah. And I found out that at my work, they have an amazing shredding machine
Right. Oh, yeah.
that that does a cross-cut shred. So it not only cuts it into linguine, but it cross-cuts it. And that gives me a pretty fluffy
That, that
brown
that
paper.
stuff is ideal as well. A lot of people say, well, it's got that plastic ink on it. But it doesn't matter to the worms. I mean, it's not perfectly organic, obviously,
Hmm.
but
But I like the idea of using waste streams rather than like,
sure.
there are no coconuts in Oregon.
Oh,
So if I'm using coconut coir, that has to get shipped from somewhere.
yeah,
But I've now trained the office manager to bring me the brown paper.
sure. And
So,
if I had an office job, that's exactly what I would be doing is, shredding, using the shredding material, and then
uh-huh.
using the whatever brown paper I came up with, and whatever newspaper I happen to have. You don't want to use, obviously, a coated paper like a magazine paper,
Right,
or,
nothing
yeah,
shiny.
shiny. But when they shred things, occasionally those little envelope windows get in there, or sometimes it's
Hmm.
some shiny stuff. It's not going to make that much difference, but they just can't deal with a diet of that shiny, ink laden paper. But
Right.
it'll be perfectly fine.
That's cool. And then what do you think about sphagnum moss? How do you say that word? Sphagnum?
Sphagnum. Sphagnum
Yeah.
moss is good, but it's awfully expensive, isn't it?
Well, see, it's free for me. It's all over the trees in my forest.
Ah, I don't know how to process it. Do you need to dry it before you put it in?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, are they in danger if I gather that in the forest and just stick it in there? Is there going to be
Well,
some kind of a worm predator?
I don't think so. I'd have to really research that. Yeah, sphagnum moss and mistletoe are parasites, and,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and they
Okay.
they generally people say, well, the sphagnum moss or particularly the mistletoe is killing my tree. That's not true. Your tree is weak, and that's the reason the mistletoe can get a handhold in it, get a toehold
Uh-huh.
in it. So it's not, you know, killing the tree. But
Right.
sphagnum moss, I'm a little unclear about exactly how it works and why.
I don't know if I think it just grows on the tree. I
Yeah.
think just the tree's a great place for it to be. And I'm in the Pacific Northwest, which is very
Well,
moist.
just
And
just
so,
just send all those kids you got up the tree trunks to harvest the sphagnum moss, and when they fall out of the tree, you can set their bones because you're a
oh,
pediatrician. Yeah.
oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, there's another question. What about wood shavings?
Wood shavings are a little dangerous because you can put too much in and they would tend to overheat your or to dull your bin, rather not overheat it, but to kind of stop the process of composting. If they're dry wood shavings,
Mm-hmm.
then they're better. But if they're green, they're going to add a lot of nitrogen, and that's not going to be real good for your bin. You're going to get out of balance.
Oh, okay.
Did I say two
All
different things?
right.
I think I did. But anyway,
Well,
uh,
yeah. So okay, so if it's green wood, like that would be like if I trimmed my bushes and ran them through the chipper shredder.
right.
I actually have I have a wheelbarrow full of that.
It
That
it
that
needs to
probably is
dry
going to
out.
be too hot because it's
Yeah,
got leaves and
yeah.
it's got green and brown, and that might cook my worms. That might be like too
Yeah,
much.
it's too much. Now, if you let it
Okay.
set out a season and then put it in, it's probably fine.
But like, what if it's my husband doing woodworking and his what is that called? His dust collection system has pulled up a lot of sawdust.
Yeah, a lot depends on what the wood was treated with. If you're
Oh, sure.
if you're using an arsenic treated wood
Oh
uh,
no, I wouldn't do that.
or
Yeah, that
some
would be
Or
bad.
plywood.
yeah, plywood,
True,
yeah,
has glues.
there are lots of glues and dyes and different kinds of sealants in the wood. So generally, that kind of wood. Now, if he's doing hardwood uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's not treated, that's probably okay in
Okay.
limited amounts. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
around
But
here, well,
the paper's good stuff, the quar's good stuff. What about like just potting soil? Like if I was desperate,
sure,
could I use potting soil?
sure,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
kind of a waste of potting soil, but
It is. It's kind of a
Yeah.
waste, but I buy giant bags from Costco, so I could imagine at some point where
Yeah.
that might be what I have at hand.
yeah, um,
Um,
and
If you have a sawmill near you, like I do, you just
mhm.
drive over and talk to Tommy Bell and say, "Hey, Tommy, can I get some sawdust?" And the pile is 12 feet high, so he's like, "Go ahead."
yeah,
And he's sawing fresh log. I mean,
It's a
he's
sawmill,
cutting
right?
up
So
trees.
there's no com yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
but
but that's a little rare. But I just had to say it.
but
No, that's yeah. Go
we
ahead.
empty our vacuum cleaner bags with dog hair and all that stuff into our bin. Oh yeah,
Really?
they love that
So
stuff.
you just like you clean up the dog hair and you're like, here you go, worms.
Right, yeah. Because we don't treat our
Oh,
dog, back in the old days, you would treat your dog with malathion uh, for fleas and ticks and
For
stuff.
ticks and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
but you don't
mm-hmm.
have to do that anymore. If you're on a modern preventative, the dog
Right.
hair is really not poisonous like it would have been if you treated it
Right.
externally. And so dog
Now the
hair,
dog blood is poisonous.
yeah, well, not poisonous. It just interrupts the cycle, the breeding
Oh,
cycle.
okay.
So it's
All
not
right, cool.
poisonous. And so that works okay. House dust, all the house dust, the mites, the spiders, all that stuff you're getting up off, is good for your worm bin.
Yeah, I've been
Okay.
thinking about. I vacuum a lot with my robot vacuum and my cordless vacuum, and it's because I have two dogs and they have a little backyard where they truck everything back in here. It's amazing amount of dirt and dog hair, and I'm thinking this is all if not organic, it's natural.
Right.
Yeah.
It's. And I was wondering if I could put it in because we have curbside composting in Brooklyn. I'm like, I wonder if I could just put this in the compost. So I'm going to look that up now. I'm going to
Yeah.
ask and look that up.
Oh, I think you could.
We have a, CSA. We subscribe to a community supported agriculture, and we have a farmer that we get his. We subscribe, and then we get produce from him, and just all the stuff that's left over when you cut the ends off carrots, and the tips, and
Mm-hmm.
we try to eat as many greens as we can. We're to the point now we're sick of greens. We've eaten so many. Um, but just when you scrape carrots, when you scrape turnips, kohlrabi,
Mm-hmm.
you have to get that tough skin off. All that stuff goes into the worm bin now. We have virtually zero wet waste, and nothing goes down the garbage disposal.
Oh, that's awesome. So, do you worry about like the size of the chunks? Do you try to decrease the size of chunks, or do you just like, it'll break down by the time it gets to the bottom?
It'll break down by the time it gets to the bottom.
Wow.
Because
You
like, yeah, right
solve the world's
now,
problems.
yeah, that sounds great. I can't wait to have my worm bin functioning at that level because I'm giving it like small chopped up bits and lettuce leaves and really thin things. Oh, and coffee grounds. I've heard great things about coffee
Coffee
grounds.
grounds are great. Tea bags are great.
Yeah.
The only things you shouldn't put in are meat byproducts and fat and
Uh-huh.
citrus. It
Citrus.
doesn't do well.
Oh, what about onions? I know
No
onions are
problem. No problem.
problem. Oh, no, onions are no
No
problem. Okay,
garlic,
cool.
onions, all that.
Oh, cool.
We have
Wow.
almost we put our our trash can. We call it the black can. We have black and blue,
Uh-huh.
blue for recycling. We put the black can out maybe once a month.
Oh, good for
We
you.
have almost between the recycling that we do uh, and the worm bin, we have almost
Hmm.
no waste, and that's kind of the point we want to be at.
Right. That is the point of all this. Um, yeah, I've been an avid composter for I don't even know, more than 30 years.
Yeah. It,
I mean, like I was the 20 something who was digging into the trash to rescue the compostables my roommates had thrown away. I felt very I felt very strongly about it.
well, I just love and I mention this all the time, but the virtuous cycle. Uh,
Mm,
you take something, it's you use it, you reuse it as best you can, you recycle it, and bring it back as something else and put it in your plants. And particularly when it comes to food waste,
hmm.
it is so easy to do, and it's so good, and it's a lot cheaper than buying a commercial fertilizer, and
Oh yeah.
it's a virtuous cycle, and I love the idea of that. I always have. That's the reason I love solar power. uh,
Hmm.
it's a part of a virtuous cycle. uh, I always think that someday, millions of years after we're gone, people are going to dig us up and they're going to say, aren't these people strange? They were sitting here next to this amazing power source in the sky, and
Yeah.
they couldn't figure out how to use it.
Well, I always imagined that, and probably like not even 50 years from now, they're going to be like, can you believe that people used to wash their cars with drinking water?
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, so
I wanted to circle back to the Hungry Bin website actually. Is
okay.
that
Mm.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah, yeah.
certainly. Yeah.
They make two different commercial versions of this, which is essentially an aluminum rack of 4 bins or an aluminum rack of 8 bins.
Wow.
So you could process from a restaurant, it looks like.
Oh, wow.
Oh wow, that is impressive. I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, it's hungrybin.co.nz is the site. Obviously, you can't order from New Zealand because the shipping would be
The
amazing. But
shipping would be crazy. Now
Jim's
I'm
Worm Farm.
looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you look under Pert Buy, it lists a worm farm, and then at the bottom it's commercial rack.
Yeah, I see that.
So
Yeah, it says here an 8-rack bin would process 2.5 tons of garbage. That's amazing.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
is that over a year?
Yeah, a year.
Oh, I see. So it's just the same bin,
Just
but
8
they
of
built
them.
this
Right.
they
Yeah.
built this clever metal rack that holds them all. So no wheels. This is
Yeah.
staying put.
Yeah.
This is because when you buy one of it's got the cute, wheels, which is fun.
Well, it helps you move it. The worms, now probably in Oregon, it doesn't matter. But here in Virginia Beach, the worms would really cook if they're out in the sun. And so we move it different parts of the yard, depending on where the sun is to keep it,
Oh,
to
okay.
keep it in the shade. And then during the winter, I bring it into the garage, and it does okay. I'm sure the worms get a little frosty in there, but every year I have worms that survive, and so we're doing pretty good.
Right. I've got it on my deck, on my back. I have a small back deck.
Hmm.
And it's to the south of my of the house, I guess. It's in an L, and so it's completely shaded from the western sun. And it gets morning sun, except right now we've got a big umbrella over a table, and so that seems to keep it in the shade.
Right.
It's in the shade of the umbrella. And I'm hoping that I can leave it there through the winter, since we have pretty mild
Yeah.
winters.
I don't see why not. I mean, the earthworms, they survive. What is the natural earth temperature for
60 or
yeah,
56.
something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah, for
Yeah.
if you're doing thermal recycled heating.
Yeah.
It's
I don't think we ever I don't think we ever stay cold long enough that something that size would freeze
and
solid.
see, when your spare time,
In Wisconsin, it would.
yeah, oh yeah, in your spare time, you can just you can knit the worms little sweaters to wear.
Sweaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, I think people have
No,
reached their
little worm
destination home
sweater.
office.
Oh,
But that was a great
Okay.
deep dive. I knew nothing about that, so I basically kept my mouth shut.
well, and we appreciate that. I think it was a better podcast for it.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
All right, everyone. If you have some thoughts about this, it'd be great to hear from you. It's radio@gardenfork.tv. That's radio@gardenfork.tv. So, Julia, thank you for making this happen. As we all know, it's I am not the scheduling expert, and Rick isn't either. So.
I was lucky
I'm
to
so
be
glad
here.
we could talk. I'm glad we finally got the equipment to work.
It was great to be on with you, Julia. Thanks for being here with
All
us.
right. I do
All right,
have
make it a great
a
day,
little
everyone.
extra for the post show.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, the after show.
Yeah.
Don't forget the
and
after show.
I wanted to talk about fermenting in the after show.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let me say goodbye to everyone, and then we'll do that. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media LLC in Brooklyn, New York. Our producer is Sean O'Neill. If you need an amazing podcast producer, visit Sean's site, SeanInBrooklyn.com. That's Sean, SEAN, in Brooklyn.com. Our executive producer is Jimmy Goose. For more information about Jimmy and the custom hollow books he makes, visit hollowbooks.com. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.